So after a decade worth of films, the MCU finally has its first female-led superhero film, and to be quite honest, I was a little lukewarm going into this one. The trailers didn't impress me all that much. I'm just so much more excited to see Avengers Endgame. But after seeing it, I gotta say, it's a fun film to go watch. I mean, it does have its problems. It's not perfect by any means, but it's still enjoyable. It's a fine film. Like every Marvel movie we've seen in the MCU, there's a lot of humor involved, but I think for as far as this film goes, the humor fit, not like the way Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 was. In my opinion, I think the humor worked a lot better in this one. They're not always going for the joke, and when they do go for the joke, it fits the moment and the character and the scene itself. But there are a couple times where the joke kind of gets stale or it falls flat. For example, the cat is a big part of the first couple trailers, I believe, and there are moments where it's like, yeah, that's pretty funny, but then they kind of hit it over the head a little bit too much, and it just gets stale. And I also do like how the film is structured. It's not the same kind of origin story that we've seen over and over again. It's more of like a self-discovery type of film, just the Captain Marvel learning who she is and rediscovering who she is, and by like uncovering these pieces of her past. And I like the way that it's structured. You find out who she is along with her, and there's a couple of twists and turns here and there, and for the most part I enjoyed the way the film was structured and how the story was being told. And of course, being a part of the cinematic universe, there's going to be tie-ins to other films. Those didn't quite bother me quite as much as other people did. I mean, it doesn't stand on its own as, say, Black Panther did. Black Panther does stand on its own quite well, in my opinion. And this movie ties into several movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And again, that didn't bother me quite as much because it made sense for these things to be there. I mean, Nick Fury's a big key piece of this film. It goes into his backstory a bit more because it makes sense for him to be there because of the pager at the end of Infinity War. There's certain other elements that show up in this one, and it didn't bother me because they explain it in a way it's like, oh, okay, that's why that's in there, and that's where that comes from. Brie Larson, for what she's given, is pretty good as Captain Marvel. This character doesn't have so much of a character arc. Again, it's more of a self-discovery, rediscovering the character in this story, and it's not so much going through a huge change and becoming Captain Marvel. And for what she's given, she's able to pull this role off pretty well. But it's mostly her chemistry with Sam Jackson that I enjoyed while they're on screen together. Sam Jackson is playing Nick Fury for like the billionth time, so you expect him to be good. But really, where these two characters shines when they're on screen together and their chemistry that they have is probably the better part of the film, for me at least. But it's Ben Mendelsohn that stole the entire movie for me. He elevates the material because the writing isn't the best in this movie, but for what he's given, he's able to pull it off really well. His cameo time is so perfect, and he's just one of these actors that whatever movie he's in, I'm going to be excited to see him in that role because he can be in the worst movie ever, but he can be the shining light of that film. And like I said at the top of this video, the movie isn't perfect. It has its issues, and one of them is the pacing. The pacing is problematic at times, not with just the entire film, but within each individual scenes. The dialogue kind of seems rushed at certain times, and it just didn't seem to know when to hold on certain beats for like emotional or comedic effect, which leads like the more emotional or heavier plot points of the film to not hit quite as hard. There's this backstory with the character that Lashana Lynch plays that's really underdeveloped, so when that big moment comes with her character, it doesn't hit as hard because it feels like the movie is just rushing through these moments to reach that big climactic moment that we all want to see. But again, I did enjoy this film. Does it have its issues? Sure. But if you're a fan of the MCU, I think you will find enjoyment in this film. I certainly did enjoy watching this movie. And I will say that the mid-credits scene at the end of the film is just so worth it. I'm not going to spoil it, but it does get me excited to see this character show up in the MCU again. So now I know what you think. If you saw Captain Marvel, let me know what you thought of it in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to like and share it and stay up to date on all the videos going up on this channel. Get that subscribe button to click. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you in the next review.